Greetings. My name is Gabriel. We can be called in different ways. This is either the Great White Brotherhood. You can also the Brotherhood of the Grail and the Brotherhood of Odin. Or, for example, the Union of the Enlightened. And so, the greatest human right is to know the truth. And today I will tell you about the Mothman, the Jumping Jack and the Chupacabra. All of them are uninvited guests. As a rule, these are inhabitants of parallel worlds, but by no means in the sense of levels from the first to the seventh, namely dimensions parallel to yours, but at the same third level. Levels are racks, sort of like one above the other, located vertically, while each has an infinite number of dimensions inside. So here, all those whom I have listed above are nothing more than inhabitants of parallel dimensions of your own level, that from time to time they themselves unwittingly cross the line and find themselves in your world. Conditions. As for the monster S, then they exist, although, of course, they are not as numerous as you might think. And my advice to you, it is better for you not to face them face to face. These creatures this time are, as a rule, guests from of a higher level and are controlled from there by other creatures, or they decided to escape and never return there. As for unicorns, griffins, centaurs, basilisks and other heraldic animals, some of them once really existed. During the period of either the heyday of Atlantis and beyond, or within a couple of thousand years after it, when individual units of one kind or another, like, for example, the Loch Ness Monster, were able to survive and adapt to the changed environment. For the most part, they were the products of experiments on crossing several species to see what happened. The most unadapted, for example, unicorns and the same griffins, died out during the Great Flood, and all the rest a little later from the inability to reproduce to exterminate the offspring. Those that managed to survive either adapted better than the others, or became henchmen of the inhabitants of a higher level. People from all over the world by the time of the transition and after it will find themselves in different conditions so that they will become more united, and their enlightened leaders will finally help them to make the phenomenon of global awakening a reality. And then a new century will begin and the light of a new era for all mankind will dawn on the horizon. Someone came up today and asked me if I expect the coming end of the world in the coming years. Then I would probably say the following. First, as everyone knows, our planet, the entire system and the galaxy do not stand still, and therefore sooner or later such a change should take place, taking into account the fact that changes on all planets of the solar system and even on the sun itself are now well known and difficult to conceal. Secondly, as you know in creation, everything is cyclical and therefore it is possible that we are really approaching a time when one cycle is nearing completion and the next one should come. When this will happen, I cannot say for sure, but the fact that it will happen no later than 10 to 15 years from our time, according to the signs that are visible on our planet more and more clearly every year, I am 100% sure. And thirdly, I would suggest changing the rather meaningless term end of the world to something more understandable, like the end of the cycle, which in my opinion more realistically reflects the essence of the matter. And finally, in the end, I would like to say a few words about the situation in the current society that has developed today and how those possible changes that will occur can affect it in the moral and spiritual position as it currently exists. What does the term end of the world mean as it is used today? If we are talking about the fact that the planet will be destroyed, so that most of the population will leave it irrevocably into oblivion, and the celestial body itself will be somehow physically damaged or destroyed, then I can say with confidence that this will not happen yet very, very long. If we say that our world, our way of life, our perception of society and the planet as they currently exist, will change and also go away irrevocably, then I would more agree with this formulation, since, in my opinion, this is what we have to go through in the coming years. I do not exclude that very serious cosmic or other planetary geophysical events will take place, accompanied by a breakdown of the whole old paradigm to which the majority are accustomed. Whenever they happen in the next 2 decades, it is important to understand that it is impossible to accept change without understanding a couple of key points. First, to accept change, you need to try to start changing yourself, and this is the most difficult part that we all have to, apparently. Since without changing yourself, you simply will not be able to go through the changes, and the choice will be quite tough, either change and survive, or stay and disappear. Secondly, it is necessary to awaken to reassess many priorities and values, and only then will the person on the street have a chance to go through the changes. And thirdly, If you believe Gabriel, and of which I am more than sure, the main quality that will help you get through the change is dedication and responsibility for yourself and your thoughts and actions. The man at the end of this decade seems to be just like that and not otherwise. Otherwise, the end of the world, which many imagine for themselves, will indeed become the end for many in the social, economic, spiritual, and, which is not surprising in the final analysis, in the physical sense. Even if he finds himself in new conditions and does not accept all three of the above points, he will never become a part of the new society and will be rejected by the majority as an alien element. The inability to communicate, had the right to freedom of speech, thought, action and belief, limited freedom of movement, dependence on a rigid system of economic or social nature imposed from above can be exactly the end of the familiar world that can really happen. The loss of everything familiar and loved, the loss of the meaning of existence and the inability to adapt to new conditions in the rigid framework of a new imposed reality. Is this not the worst end? Therefore, the main key to change around us is to change ourselves. We do not need revolutions, since we all know perfectly well and have seen what they lead to. We should not wait for a savior who will come and tell us how to live and how to follow him. The time is coming when each of us must make a revolution in ourselves, since the coming change will be a cardinal event precisely at the level of each individual soul and collective consciousness as a whole. Only by awakening to a new reality one by one, we, collectively awakening, will change the world around us. And in this I absolutely agree with Gabriel. Therefore, I would like to say in the end, do not be afraid of changes. Wake up on your own, bring light to those who are drawn to the truth, for, as it is said, the greatest human right is to know the truth. J.D.